can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Now, we like to have our daily dose of... I like to have our weekly dose of American politics. I know we could speak about Australian politics, and maybe Dickie from Muff might want to speak about Australian politics, but we had Dr. Barney McCusker on last week to give his take on why he thought Kamala Harris would be the next president of the United States, and how he justified that. He actually even said he'd donated to it, which almost made him ineligible to come on again. But of course, we don't care what politics you have. We like to speak about them. And in that case, welcome to Dick from Muff, Richard Wollstonecroft from the Melbourne Underground Film Festival. Welcome, Dick.
Good morning, mate. How are you? How's everything up in Far North Queensland?
Well, it's going okay, Dick. The only thing we can say is that the weather is not cold. No, we can say plenty of things about it, but it's not cold.
Cold down here.
Yes, I know that. Now, it's very hard to know where to start with all this, but race.
I had to listen to your friend Barney McCusker last week chatting about Kamala. I mean, is it possible for people from another country to donate? I thought that was illegal, but I guess maybe it's possible. I'm not sure.
Maybe it was tongue in cheek to take a rise out of me.
I think it might have been, mate. Yeah, I don't think you're actually allowed to, but you can buy products, or you can buy a hat, or things like that. But I didn't exactly follow his reasoning about Kamala last week. What did you think of it?
No, well, I'm not speaking for him, of course, he can speak for himself, but he was suggesting, as is very reasonable, that the groundswell of support besides someone who is not Joe Biden, because even if you are a dyed-in-the-wool advocate of the Democratic Party in America, you would find it hard to vote for that clown, that stupid man, that man who is mentally incapable of... the only thing he's good at doing is crapping himself. So I can understand, if you are a sympathiser to that party, that anyone would be a welcome change, and they might embrace her or him or her, as it turns out. So that's fair enough, and I would think it's no foregone conclusion, no certainty that Donald Trump will be the president now that there's a new face on the map, or a new person in the ring. But surely they could have had a crack at getting someone better than that, because she is an absolute... she is a buffoon. She's not across any subject. She can't speak with... She has not done an interview yet that doesn't have a teleprompter in front of her. She is coddled. I see that now they asked Trump. I noticed this. He went to the Black Writers Convention and was accosted by a woman. Good on him, good on her, who said he's disgraced and he'd said all these things. And did he think Kamala Harris got a job because of DEI, diversity, inclusion and equity? And he said, well, I don't know about that, but Joe Biden gave her the job on DEI. She said she gets the job because she's a woman and she's black. And then they said, Dickie, then the woman said, why are you disputing that she's black? He said, I'm not disputing she's black. I'm disputing the fact that she said she was an African-American to try and garner African-American votes in America. And, of course, she's not African-American. She just adopted that particular slogan because she thought no one would push back on it, but she's actually a Jamaican Indian. She got nothing to do with African-American being black. So then he was accused of being racist for saying no. So they just go on and on. It's just all about race.
I mean, you would think that they would be suspicious of somebody who's just, like changing their kind of ethnic identity and just to suit what they think is the best votes. I mean, imagine if Trump said he was African or something. I mean, I guess she has some Jamaican in her. I mean, that's what would you call that area? That's like the Bahamas around there. So that's not African. So, it's very strange, mate, but it just goes to show how, vapid and shallow all this kind of politics is. I mean, some people think, Kamala will give the Democrats a boost, and maybe she has given them a bit of a boost compared to someone like Joe Biden. But, the economy has just started to collapse. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed the stock market has gone through the floor. So, I mean, I don't know. I reckon that definitely strengthens Trump's.
She's given him someone other than Biden has given them a tremendous boost because, don't forget, 48 or 9% of the population here and in America and anywhere really in the world, any democratic country in the world, vote one way and half the population vote the other, and the swinging voters change the electorate. So she will have a support. It was very hard for people to vote for Biden no matter what party you followed, but now that he's not there, they'll swing back on.
I think you're right, mate. I think she is certainly a bit of a boost for the Democrats. But as I said, I mean, exactly what you said. She hasn't given many interviews. She's terrible when she's on her own.
None.
She uses that word salad where she says, it's like saying, well, we're on the phone with Sam Newman because Sam Newman's on the phone with me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, she's sort of circular arguments that she does. And so it'll be the debate. Obviously, the debate got rid of Joe Biden. I mean, everyone saw how bad Joe was then. Even the Democrats, obviously, people like George Clooney and Obama, and even people like Schumer and Pelosi were, itching to kick out Biden, and that's what's happened, mate. So, there we are.
Now, Dick, you might have noticed the opening of the Olympic Games. They had a bunch of, weirdos and freaks.
Yes.
And kooks sitting around on a long table debasing and degrading the Last Supper. Why they did that, I'm not sure what that was about. Was that about equity or wokeness or moving into a different area? What was all that about, please?
Why does that have to be in the Olympics? I mean, I don't think anyone...
That's what I'm asking you, Dick.
Well, I don't know why it was there, mate. You know what I mean? I mean, they say it's because they wanted it to be inclusive, or they have some kind of representation for the LGBTQ plus whatever it is community. But is that really the appropriate spot? And sure, even if they put something there, does it have to be a mockery of the Last Supper? They claim it was like some kind of Greek and Roman kind of bacchanalia, which dates back to ancient Greece, obviously, which the Olympics do. But I think that was just the excuse. I think they were aware of what they were doing. The woman who was at the centre of the tableau, she commented that they were sending up the Last Supper, and she tweeted about it, prior to the event. And so, of course, that was all removed. So it's just this typical, and it was not the only strange thing in the ceremony. There was like some kind of weird horse running around. It was like, a white horse, like behold a white horse. That's from the Bible. There was, like people kind of dancing and falling over like they were dying. And there's all kinds of strange things there. I mean, it wasn't the whole ceremony, obviously. There were normal things there. There was, I guess, the can, that's kind of what you'd expect. The Moulin Rouge, that kind of thing, that's fine. But Celine Dion, I don't think she really offends anybody. But it was just so strange. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I actually didn't see it, but I didn't watch it.
The highlight.
No, I didn't. But why didn't they take the piss out of the Quran?
Oh, exactly, mate. We know why, because Paris would be on fire, mate. At the moment, if that was the case, and much like England is on fire at the moment. I'm sure you've noticed that in the news as well. We could get onto that later. Yes,
immigrants murdering children in the street.
There was indeed, and it's just caused a kind of they say it's a far right uprising, but I guess it's just people sort of had enough of this. And
a day of reckoning, Dick. A day of reckoning, saying this is a bit like America. Why are we letting in illegal aliens into our country who have no right to be here because they're illegal, and they're slaughtering and murdering and raping and bringing drugs in and killing our population?
Exactly. They say diversity is us freaks, but it's just, how could that possibly be conceived as that? I mean, it's just a nightmare. And it obviously awakens, a kind of latent kind of nationalism. And obviously, an odd thing is you saw the IRA, people from the Irish National Movement, protesting with the English. I mean, how unusual was that? You know what I mean? The English nationalists and the Irish nationalists were teaming up. So it's very strange bedfellows at the moment, mate.
And I was just going to, and Dick, I've just lost my train of thought. You were talking about
Right.
we were talking about the, oh my God. What
The
was
Olympic ceremony, and we're talking about
it? Yes,
also
go
the
on. It
riot.
was about the, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm not. I can't hear you. Where are you?
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
No, me, I just got a loose connection here, Dickie. That's what threw me.
Yeah.
I still can't hear you. Go on, speak.
Oh, hello.
Yes, I can
Testing.
hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
No, I can't hear you.
Oh.
What's happened to you?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
I've got you. Yes, I've got you. While I think of what I was trying to say, go ahead. Tell me what you were saying.
Oh, we were talking about the riots that are going on in the UK. I mean, there's a number of them all over the country. It's not just in the area where this incident happened. So, and obviously the new Prime Minister, Mr. Starmer, has come out, and he hasn't been talking about like stopping like violence against children, which is obviously what the issue was. He's now talking about, rounding up people of the far right. Of course, it's just a terrible situation.
I know what I was going to say. I was looking at the medal tally in the Olympics, and ROC have won 71 medals, and I thought, I have no idea what ROC is, so I looked it up, and that's the Russian Olympic Committee. They're not allowed to compete under the name Russia because they invaded the Ukraine, which begs the question. Afghanistan, I don't think, are allowed to compete, or else I'm not sure if Afghanistan have any representatives because they don't recognise women as equals or something. So I was wondering why Iran are allowed to compete in the Olympics. There is about 200 countries competing. I'm not sure why you single out Russia for invading Ukraine if you don't single out 7 or 8 other countries for various infringements about human rights. And so it seems just another political statement in an event, an event that's meant to be a sporting event.
Exactly, mate. And I mean, why is Israel, not in the same boat as Russia? Obviously, there's been a huge war going on there with Gaza, and it looks like it could be expanding to Lebanon because there's been some attacks from Lebanon and also into Lebanon. So, it's extraordinary that Russia is being singled out. And obviously Russia is always a major component of the Olympic Games, and I think it's completely unfair that that's the case. And also the whole thing of the Olympics is about bringing everyone together, mate. You know what I mean? And if you're instantly being divisive and not letting certain people participate, that's instantly bad news.
Now, here's a question for you, Dick. Which is the only country in the world that's not represented in the Olympics?
Well,
you'll have to do a bit of lateral thinking.
The only country in the world.
Yes, that's not in the Olympics.
I'd say Antarctica, but it isn't a country, is it? So,
no, it's a continent.
Exactly. So, no, I don't know, Sam. I'll have to phone a friend.
Well, yeah, I'm your friend because it's the Vatican City.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's considered a country, and that You think I'm making that up? I just looked it up to see how many countries compete. There's just over 200 with 11,000 athletes, and the only country in the world that's not represented is the Vatican City. That is a country in itself, they say.
I wonder what sport they would run for, if they were doing it.
Maybe a new category called kiddie fiddling.
Chasing boys around the quadrangle.
Yes.
But we don't want to offend the Catholic fans of the show, mate.
We're not offending the Catholics of the show, not trying to do that, but if you don't think that that's what's been going on amongst the priesthood over the decades and centuries, you're not living in the real world. We don't not knock on people who are Catholics, we're knocking people who are Catholic priests who have been doing this here and abroad.
Exactly. No, that's terrible, that situation, isn't it, mate? But,
well, it's probably terrible, Dick. I think if you're being reasonably minded about it.
Yep.
What else?
Mate.
Come on, what else is happening?
Well, lots of things have been happening, mate. Obviously there's a debate coming up. Do we know what's going on with that? I mean, because Trump wanted that on Fox News at one stage, and then, I think Kamala wanted it on ABC, so that was interesting. There's all kinds.
So Trump said he would debate Joe on any platform, any station, which he did on whatever it was on. I don't know what the station was or what but he did that. So then he said they probably think that if he did on Fox, they'd go easy on Trump. The Fox political analysts wouldn't go easy on Trump. They'd ask him just as tough questions because they pride themselves on being even-handed. This is not the commentators. This is the journalists on Fox, like Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. Those people ask just as tough questions to whoever's on. So I don't know why Kamala, they just won't let her out. They won't let her go anywhere. And I can tell you this, that when they do a debate, you'll be allowed to have notes. You'll be allowed to refer to any handwritten documents you've got. You won't be allowed to do it without a teleprompter or stand up straight. And the questions will be moderated by whoever does it.
No, completely right, mate. Obviously they want to, basically gain control, I think, Kamala's side so that they don't have another disaster like the Biden one. And obviously Trump's pushing back a bit. He's wanting it to be on Fox. Obviously there's some, Fox News has always been pro-Trump, usually, but there's a bit of a kind of, how would you call it, a rift within the Murdoch family itself. Like your son Lachlan and Ruth are kind of on the side of Trump. But there's the children, there's that famous show Succession about, the power struggle within the Murdoch family. And I think the other members of the family might like to take Fox in a more woke direction, or a
little animosity between Fox and Trump has said this. He said, but doesn't matter as we say. It doesn't matter who asks the questions, as long as they ask sensible questions and are not loaded one way or the other. Give people a chance to answer them, because she has nothing. I don't. She is a dill, and never got one vote at all when the nominations came up to challenge Biden for the presidency the last time. Not one vote she did. She the only person out of the people who nominated to take on Biden, the only person not to get a vote. She was as unpopular. She's just unpopular, and with good reason. Because she's a hooah.
The Democrats are always carrying on about, there's their name.
What?
The Democrats, but they're always carrying on about democracy. And, here they are just basically ignoring their own, primaries, and, which most of the votes went to Biden. And so they've just done basically a coup, at the behest of Obama. I don't know how the Democrats take it.
Anyhow, Dickie, there we are. So there's a nice biased reflection on... As I say, I enjoy Barney McCusker coming on, or someone. It's a bit like a debate. If you couldn't give your side of why you think Kamala Harris or anyone else, or Trump for that matter, can or shouldn't be, should or shouldn't be the president of the United States, if you can't actually argue that reasonably, then we're as bad as them. We're as bad as the people who... the mainstream media are going to make her look like a queen. She is a clown.
I agree. What does Sue Stanley think? Is she there with you at the moment?
Oh, I don't do politics.
Smart move.
No, she has a reputation to protect, Dickie. She doesn't want to be. She's still in the commercial world of. The commercial business world, and can't afford to stray.
Well, it just doesn't interest me. It's over in America. I'm probably more interested in what happens here in Australia, because it's what happens here. We follow a little bit of what happens over in probably 5 or 6 years later. Trends come from US to Australia.
Yep.
But I get enough of it. I have to sit here and listen to Trump and
so I'm glad you said that, Suzanne. So well done, Dickie. So here you are. So you have your absolute own opinion, and you listen to me rambling on about it. What do you think of just the little you follow about it?
I think it's actually comedy capers watching you go on about Trump because you're just so in love with him.
Well,
however, no, I do agree. As a business person, you got to go two sides here. You got to look at it not objectively. So you got to say what he did for America was good. I think he's a loose cannon. He says and does things probably as a loose cannon. That's why people don't like him. But he is opinionated and he's not scared to give his opinion. So that's something I do like in him. But I think previously to now, I think he's changed a little bit. I think he'll do better for the country than what previously people have done. And I'm not too sure. I do believe in this woke world that it is going to be a fair race between Harris and Trump because of a female. I believe it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a male or female, if you are warranted for the job or you can do the job, you get the job on your merits, not just because you're a female. That's the only thing I'll disagree with. And if they do that, then I'm probably disappointed.
Well, there you are, Dick. See, why haven't we asked her an opinion earlier than this?
Because I'm a female.
Because you're a female. No, Dick, in fairness, Dick said, what does Suzanne Stanley, is she there? She's there, and well done. And I'm glad you... Jesus, someone else... While you were speaking then, there was something else I was going to say about... while you were speaking then, Sue, about Trump and what you just said.
Kamala, Kamala Harris, they probably could have chosen someone better than her. Probably someone like Gavin Newsom might have been a better pick. But, I don't know, they're going to run with her, and I guess she does meet that kind of, diversity, equity, inclusion thing. But she almost represents woke in a way, and Trump obviously represents kind of anti-woke or non-woke. So, it could be a bit of a test on that. But also I think it's a real test on the economy and on, the fact that groceries are becoming expensive for the average citizen in America. James Carville said, it's the economy, stupid, when Bill Clinton was running. So I think, the fact that under Biden the economy has really gone badly. They keep
all politicians, all sides are going to say something and then they don't do it. So it happens here in Australia, like what happened in our state government. They say one thing and they do another thing. It doesn't matter what side of the politics they are. They both do whatever they want at the time.
You're right. You're right, Sue. Very wise.
Actually, I'm going to have to cut a microphone off shortly.
Can you remember what you said?
I can remember now because I've just had a little think time. Dick, as this goes on, you heard it here first. We discussed when ex-President Trump was shot at.
Yep.
This is an absolutely indirectly organised assassination attempt by the forces out to keep Trump from being on the electoral ballot for the presidential election in November. The CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service, the Democrats indirectly have not only the information coming out about people seeing that bloke, that 20-year-old with a rifle and a rangefinder on the roof 20 minutes before, the alerts that were given, the ignoring of the information, the helter and skelter, people ducking for cover, not giving information. You wait till it comes out that that boy indirectly through his family or his friends was paid money. I tell you, if that is not the greatest cover-up of an assassination attempt by people 8 and 9 times down the chain to turn a blind eye to it, I don't know what it is. That is an absolute certainty that was an orchestrated attempt by someone, not that boy, to take Trump out of the equation.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree with you more, mate. And it's amazing that this really doesn't get discussed in mainstream media. They never want to discuss.
Another very good point, Dickie. What doesn't get discussed, particularly here, and you watch the news on here on Channel 9, because we're a captive audience with the Olympics. The only way to watch the Olympics is to tape every session, every session, and then when the ads come on, just trawl through them. Just go fast forward, and that's the only way to watch it. About 3 minutes events and then 4 minutes ads. But that's they've got to pay for it somehow. I understand that. I'd like to go through all the. So what was I saying? I lost my train of thought again. I was saying.
I just hope that Australia looks at the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA, and hopes that disease doesn't infiltrate here in Australia, like our ACO and our federal police and all that. I just hope that Australia is looking at them, because that was the laughing mockery of what happened over there, and a disgrace to the CIA.
Peter Dutton came out recently and said, are there people that, don't trust the government? You should dob them into the police. He made a statement recently. It's like, when did not trusting the government become a criminal offence? This is a problem, I think, within a lot of contemporary politics. And it happened during COVID, where you just couldn't question anything that was going on. You couldn't question, for example, like Sam did, playing golf. Obviously, you couldn't, it was completely fine to play golf all throughout COVID. It just didn't make sense, and so many dictates didn't make sense at all.
I wasn't. So Christopher Wray, I think, is the head of the CIA, is he? Or Ray, W-R-A-Y.
I think so.
Yes, he said in an interview, he said, the assassination attempt on Trump, whether it be by a bullet or shrapnel hitting his ear. So they now tried to downplay the fact that he was just hit by shrapnel, maybe some splintered glass off the teleprompter. The doctors have absolutely refuted that. They've said that was a bullet, and they've showed the trajectory of the bullet. So they're even trying to water down the fact that it mightn't have been a shot at. Well, it was a shot at him, but it wasn't really a bullet. It was a bit of shrapnel. They can't help themselves. They are so corrupt and so dishonest. Yep. And eventually, if Kamala Harris ends up being the president, you'll never hear one word about it ever again. And if Trump becomes the president, he will sack every person that's ever been involved in that, and there'll probably be a civil unrest in the whole country, because he'll sack all the people who have been complicit in everything that's been done to him. And why wouldn't he be? The Russian stuff, the Hunter Biden laptop bullshit. They've gone after his family, his business, his friends. It is extraordinary. And why he's great is because he's still here doing it. That's why he's great.
Indeed. Another guy at the moment in US politics, a guy called Jamie Raskin. He was responsible for trying to implicate Donald Trump in the January 6th, riots that took over the Capitol. Of course, Trump had nothing to do with that, outside of the fact that he wanted to question things, and people just obviously got a bit carried away on that day. This guy Jamie Raskin says that even if Trump wins the election, they can do something before January 6th of next year, where they stop Trump from becoming president. Just look that up. I mean, we can talk about that on another show, but this is just extraordinary.
Yep, they'll leave. They'll, as I say, just keep the books open. It's August now. August, September, October. Now we've got 4 months to actually kill him dead this time. So maybe we'll be speaking about the late Donald Trump. I reckon before now and November the 5th.
You make a good point that they might try again, but look, maybe they've had their chance, and they're going to try other tactics. Obviously, the whole situation, for him to get attacked again, it would be so suspicious that I don't know if they'd risk it, but we'll have to wait and see, mate.
Oh, they'll risk it, because it won't be. They'll be about 8 or 9 down the line. By the time the paperwork and you follow the money and all the paper trail, it'll be too late. One way or the other, it'll be too late. Now, so once again, we'll say this: people who listen to this, if you're not from our side of what we're saying, you will have probably turned off by now. That's fair enough. So you can, I'd love to speak to someone who would disagree with me vehemently, and without, I would. It's just extraordinary. If you couldn't pump up an argument for why Trump would be better than Harris, you're not fair dinkum. Seriously.
We should probably get Kamala Harris.
I know what I was going to say. I know what I was going to say. Gradually, I remember what I'm going to say, because so you say the media here, so Channel 9 get fed by the mainstream media in America, and they just give their point of view in their news bulletins that gets fed to them from the biased mainstream media in America. They're sort of cowards, really, because they just parrot the talking points of what is said in the mainstream media over in the United States. So people here, if you watch the news, because we're a captive audience, that's how I got onto this, captive audience from watching the Olympics, if you just trawl through the ads, and you see the teasers for their news bulletins, and every teaser for the general election in the States for Harris is always slanted towards Harris and anything derogatory or bad about Trump. So they're just. So no wonder people here wonder what the hell we're talking about, because I follow it very closely, and I follow it on all stations, MSNBC, CNN. I even follow it on Al Jazeera and BBC News, but I follow it on Fox primarily, and they are pretty fair, Fox, except for the people who are biased. That is the commentators. The journalists on Fox are pretty fair, and so
I agree.
So don't worry about getting slanted over here, because they just give you the news here that just gets sent to them down the line from their affiliate television stations and news organisations in America.
But journalists are not journalists anymore. Usually a journalist used to ring up, and they'd ring up that person, or they'd follow a story and they would research that story to a T. Nowadays, they just trawl through people's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, podcasts, and just get all the information, and then they create a story that they want to create. And it's like, I don't think that there's journalists are not real journalists of what they were in the past.
And also, they would investigate something like this assassination, the fact that something maybe dodgy would be going on. I mean, journalists would love that in the good old days, maybe 30, 40 years ago. They'd look into it. There'd be like 60 Minutes report, there'd be the Four Corners, but anything that could potentially be pro-Trump across all media, apart from, say, Fox, is kind of verboten, is banned. So that's one of the reasons I love Trump, because this universal dislike of him tells you that there's something really good about him, is that he's some kind of threat to the global elite, the international status quo. And I think that's why so many people do react to him, who may not necessarily always like everything he says or whatever. He's some kind of threat to whoever's been ruling over us for the last.
The universal dislike of Trump is why I love the boy. Now, Sadiq, that's it. We can only burble on so much about all this. Now, say goodbye to Sue. You'll never hear from Sue again, unfortunately. She's not coming on to the podcast ever again. She has made far too much sense, and she's a woman.
I'm a female.
She's a female. God, you couldn't believe we've sunk to that level of putting Sheilas on.
I can vouch 200% of every television station he'll trawl through for the Trump stuff. Everyone, I know every one of them.
Yep.
You're there to report behind the scenes, Sue, and it's great talking to you, bud.
Good on you, Dickie.
Good on you, Sammy.
See you, mate, and all the best.
Yep.
Righto.
All the
Well, there you are. So you've well done. No, this is good. What are we doing now?
It's just interesting just hearing you two just baffle on.
Well, but I know, but don't misunderstand the fact. I know I'm babbling on, and I
enjoy you babbling on.
I always, while I'm speaking, think, if you were listening to this and you hated Trump and you were a whatever, you would be sitting there in your car listening to this if you hadn't turned it off, or just to see how biased or not biased, how we could talk up a story, and they people would be saying, "Have a listen to this. This is just extraordinary shit." And
I think it'd be good to get someone to challenge you.
But I would love for someone to not challenge me, but
challenge the argument.
Just challenge the argument. That's right. Well, the doc did it last week. He might have just been the devil's advocate. I don't know if he was serious or not, but he he got some.
He probably didn't have the in-depth overview of the whole lot.
No,
of what
because
you do.
that's what happens. People who just jump in, get their news, as I say, from these local television stations here in Australia, and it's all slanted to the mainstream media organisations who push out the propaganda to them here. No one ever goes in behind or looks at or has an alternate point of view because it doesn't suit their politics and their bottom line, which is being on the democratic side of politics for some reason. Anyhow, there we are. So this I say. Well, that's it. That's about it for the day, I think, isn't it?
Rolled it in a ball.
Hey?
Rolled it in a ball. And that's all, folks.